His mother was a God-fearing woman. His birth was an unspeakable horror.
Please don't let him do that!
His life and death have been one incredible nightmare. But now all that is going to change because Freddy wants to become a daddy.
Want to make babies?
What's wrong with me?
You're just a little pregnant.
Even if he has to adopt.
No!
Do unborn babies dream?
When it comes to chills.
It happened while I was awake.
When it comes to screams.
The party just start.
When it comes to pure terror.
Bon appetit.
No one delivers like Freddy. Better buckle up.
All right, Krueger. This time it's for keeps.
A Nightmare on Elm Street 5. The Dream Child.
It's a boy.
When it comes to terror, remember, Freddy knows best.
Welcome to Slash, a horror movie podcast. In Season 2 of Slash, we will be covering the films of the A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Starting with the 1984 Wes Craven classic, and ending with its remake from 2010. Slash is available everywhere podcasts can be found. You can follow Slash on Twitter at /horror. And you can find every episode of Slash at fansnotexperts.com/slash. Enjoy the show. Remember that it's fun to be scared. And whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Look at me, here I am, right where I belong. The curtain's up and the lights are bright and they're playing our old song. What better place could anyone be now that you're here with me? So everyone, here we go, let's start the show, 'cause now I'm here, now you're here. Nothing can go wrong 'cause I am right where I belong. Oh, welcome to Slash. Hello, horror fans. It's been quite a long time since you've last heard from me. Yes, I still have the Freddy Krueger glove on. Not sure it shows up on the video as well with the Zoom green screen kind of thing. Look, it disappears, but that's okay. Wow. It's been quite some time. It's been a long time getting from there to here. I'm going to take the glove off for a minute so I can use my mouse a little. But welcome back to Slash, covering, after great delays between episodes, covering the horror franchises that I grew up loving, and I'm sure you grew up loving as well. We are right back where we left off, back with A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5. But before I get there, I wanted to give a quick shout out to someone on Twitter who gave Slash or me or whatever a quick shout out. And that is One Man's Meat Podcast. Now, what is One Man's Meat Podcast? They're probably part of the Out Podcast family with Real Chris Bellis and Scottish Juggalo, who I'm assuming is a juggalo from Scotland. That's just my guess. They delve into the dusty corners of pro wrestling. Ooh. Oh, they can see me. Well, can you see me? I watch wrestling so that you don't have to. Ooh, I need to check out that show. But a couple of weeks ago, or exactly a month ago, they put out a tweet that said Meat Siders, which, I mean, could you have a better name to call your listeners? While you're waiting for the eventual return of Disgusting Awful, why not check out the fantastic, he wrote it, or they wrote it, Slash Horror. That's where you can find us on Twitter, a podcast going through your favorite horror franchises one film at a time. Season 1 focuses on Halloween and is just wonderful. Thank you so much. I can't wait to actually complete season 2. We're here. We're finally doing it. We're finally back to it. So after a long delay, I'm excited to get back talking horror. And I'm going to guess that you guys are either completely in Scotland or are in England and Scotland. And I'm clever. You wrote favorite with a U. And you know who my favorite is? You. See what I did there? That's called, I made that up on the spot. I honestly, these are the bad jokes that I tell my niece all the time. But for real, thank you so much for the shout out. What have I been doing since you last heard from me? Podcasting on different podcasts. I have a podcast called The Mandalorian Man, where I cover all the Disney Plus Star Wars shows. That just finished up, talking about The Acolyte, which I had mixed feelings on. Not quite as aggressive as some of the feelings that I saw online. I have a show called Geek Mentality, where I just covered 30 new movies for my movie month in June. I have a podcast called Fine Movies, Fine Spirits, where I've been doing movie reviews and discussing some great classic movies with, or just movies we love with some of my friends. I have a podcast called Reaction Comics, where I cover action comics. So I'm reading the old action comics. That one finally had a new episode for the first time last week. And my Stranger Things podcast. I have an idea for kind of a long running series to kind of get us through until Stranger Things 5. But those are all other podcasts. You can find all of those at fansnotexperts.com. That's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, or is it just A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Child? It's funny because I always called it Nightmare on Elm Street 5. I always called it, 4 was Dream Master, 5 was Dream Child, and I think 6 was The Dream Police or something like that. Actually, this is the last proper A Nightmare on Elm Street, right? There are sequels, but the last one that's not a reboot, the last one in this series, the last one with Robert Englund as Frederick Krueger, that's called A Nightmare on Elm Street, because we have Freddy's Dead, which I saw in the theater I saw 3, 4, 5, 7 in the theater. 8. I saw a bunch of them in the theater. The only one I didn't see in the theater was part 1, part 2, and the reboot. So, but part 6, that I won't get there because it's not even called part 6. Let's be honest. I feel stupid I feel terrible even saying that. We're going to get to that when we get to that. But part 5, 1989. I know for a fact that I saw this in the theater. Now where am I? I am in the 8th grade at this point. So this came out in August 11th, 1989. So I just turned 13 and I'm about to go into 8th grade. So I'm about to be the king of the school, I'm more into heavy metal, loving horror movies. And I was definitely like ready. I'm going to be the king of this. I wasn't the king of the school or anything, but let's be honest. I was getting finished out grammar school to become a man. And my brother and I 100% went to see this in the theater. I know our dad took us to part 3, but I think that was the last one he took us to. I think 4, 5, and going forward, it was just the two of us. And there wasn't another horror movie that I think I went to see with my dad until the 2 It movies, I think. Um, I want to take him to see, what is it, Terrifier? No, I didn't. But going into this movie, I wrote down this little note. My brother and I 100% went to see this, and I'm not certain I've seen it since then. And I had almost zero memory about what this movie was about. I know there was a child, there was dreaming, there was Freddy. That's all I remembered. Now watching it, things came back into the memory, and I was like, oh, I remember that. I remember this. So I remembered, I remembered it as I was going through it. But at the time of watching, before I was just about to put it on, I'm like, I wasn't looking forward to, oh, this moment or that moment, because I didn't remember any of it going into it. The only thing I remembered was that my favorite heavy metal singer, Bruce Dickinson, he contributed, bring your daughter to the slaughter. Now, Bruce is the lead singer of Iron Maiden, who I've seen in concert. I want to say close now. It might be 11 times. I think it's 12. Whatever it is, it's going to happen again this fall. Going to see him again. They won't play "Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter." Now, it was a Bruce Dickinson solo song that then he brought over to Iron Maiden for their, I want to say, 1990 album, "No Prayer for the Dying," which was the first time I saw them in concert. Back when I was like, there are young kids that go see. There are old people who go see Iron Maiden concerts, and now I'm like, there are young kids that go see Iron Maiden concerts because I'm old. The band's even older. But that's all I remembered. Let me give you some of the quick facts going into this movie. It was released on August 11th, 1989, just as I said, which was less than a year since the Dream Master. It's 90 minutes long, so it's just a quick. I think I wrote one place 93 minutes. I wrote 90 minutes. Wikipedia has 90 minutes. It was short. On a budget of $8 million, it grossed $22 million, but you think, wow, that was double the budget. But it was half of what the Dream Master made. So I'm thinking to myself, are people already getting tired of these movies? It's the second lowest grossing Nightmare movie, though it was still one of the top 50 movies of 1989, which doesn't make sense. Top 50, I guess, 22 million. You got the big ones up there. You got Batman and Back to the Future 3, 2, and Ghostbusters 2, and then, others. But it was the highest grossing slasher. And that says something, that it's the lowest grossing Nightmare, second lowest grossing, but the highest grossing slasher of 89, which tells me maybe people were starting to tire out of these movies. It is written, a screenplay by Leslie Bohem, who is best known for Dante's Peak and Daylight. Remember that movie where Stallone is like in a tunnel? The story by Bohem and also by John Skipp, who wrote Class of 1999 uncredited and an episode of the 2019 Creep Show. Was that a Shudder show? And also by Craig Spector, who did something from 2009 called Animals. So pretty much Leslie Bohem's done stuff you may have heard of, and these other guys are writers. Directed by Stephen Hopkins, best known for Blown Away, the Jeff Bridges one, not the Corey Feldman one. Lost in Space, which was the remake with Matt LeBlanc. Was he that one? And that one, but Better Judgment Night, which the soundtrack I think was more famous than the movie, and of course, the big one for him, Predator 2. The guy still directs a lot of TV today, and it starred Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger, Lisa Wilcox as Alice, Kelly Jo Minter as Yvonne, who she's recognizable. She's been in a bunch of stuff. Danny Hassel as Dan, Erika Anderson as Greta, Nicole Mele as Alice's dad. He wasn't, he was just nice in this one. It seemed like last time he was a jerk, but now he's just kind of a nice guy. I guess losing a son would do that. Joe Seeley as Mark, the skateboarding comic book guy, and Whit Hertford, that's not right, Whit Hertford as Jacob. Little Jacob, not quite a baby, but that's what her kid's going to look like. And now I want to do something I call Slashopedia, which basically just means that I go to the Wikipedia page of the movie and kind of get some production notes. It says, after Nightmare on Elm Street 4 was released in '88, that was a big financial success, and that is when Freddy started becoming an entertainment kind of pop culture phenomenon. There were toys, there was merchandising. It was Freddy's Nightmares, all these things. They're like, we need to jump right back on this as quickly as possible. So screenwriter Leslie Bohem, he was interviewed for the 2010 documentary Never Sleep Again. He said he originally pitched the storyline for A Dream Child for part 3 for Dream Warriors. At the time, one of the executives at New Line was pregnant, and she took exception to the idea of a newborn Freddy Krueger clawing her way out of a woman's womb. After giving birth, she started to think about the storyline and realized that teenagers who watched the original film in '84 were now starting to grow up, have families of their own, which prompted the development of the Dream Child in '88. There's only 4 years difference. I don't think that many kids watching Nightmare on Elm Street were having families of their own already. And if, that's just my guess. It says pre-production was challenging, partially due to the frequently changing script. Stephen Hopkins recalled that the bulk of the final film came from Leslie Bohm's script, although the other guys, Skipp and Spector, had some added material, causing the Writers Guild of America to intervene when deciding ultimate writing credits. Oh, so I see. So Bohem probably was the main original guy, but they brought these other guys in and they had to get credit. And I think I read somewhere that it took them, they had 4 weeks to shoot the movie and 4 weeks to edit the movie. I think I read that right. So it was like, you need to rush this out. It doesn't matter how good the movie is. Just get Freddy in there, get him murdering some kids, and they'll throw a rock song in there, and boom, we got a hit. They didn't quite have a hit, but it still kept the ball rolling. Now, let's start talking about this movie. I used to take copious notes. I'm talking the most copious notes that have ever been copied. Now, I realize that was making talking about this movie work, and I wasn't enjoying it. So now what I do is I have the movie in front of me. I like to scrub through it and kind of bring you through what I'm seeing on the screen as I go through the movie and kind of talk about it. I did notice that even though I said this movie is called A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, in the titles, it's just called A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Child. And I wondered if they were going to kind of just try to go with, we're not going to give you numbers anymore. Tom Cruise doesn't use numbers anymore. You got to just figure out, it doesn't matter which one. It actually does make it more difficult to figure out what order those movies are in, the Mission Impossible movies. But we're done using numbers. And so, in fact, they were. Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Child. Did they use 4? I don't even remember. I've seen it. I talked about it for this podcast. I don't even remember. For the purposes of this show, I'm calling this Nightmare on Elm Street 5, even though it's not in the title. This is, I think, the first one to open up with sexual intercourse. We just see a really kind of oddly erotic scene of two peoples making whoopee, I guess is the only way to describe it. It's the hottest way to describe it. They're making whoopee. And wow, it's weird because the font of the opening credits, I guess it's supposed to look like nightmare and scratchy and stuff, but to me it just looks like a bad chalk font from like the mid 90s. But we definitely open up right with sexual intercourse with, of course, Alice, our innocent, lovely Alice, who I learned something about recently that really bothered me. You may know this already, but I did not realize that our Alice, or Alice of, wait a second. Is she only in these two movies? I don't even remember if she comes back for part 6. I'm not going to, you know what it's called. I have no memory. It seems like but I feel like 6 was such a weird departure that she didn't. So I don't know. But she is the star of 4. They just they go from Nancy to Blondie. I don't remember her name. 3. Then they couldn't even keep uh, Patricia Arquette. We got Tuesday Night. She was just brought in to die. They go to Alice. Alice takes over pretty much in 4 and in 5. But after that, you think of her as this loving, tough, kick-ass, but good person, mom, innocent, just not like, they didn't make her seem like the crazy girl or the slutty girl that they would do in these old slasher movies. But then I read, well, what's she up to lately? And I saw that in 2023, Lisa Wilcox, the actor who played Alice, was on the reality program MILF Manor with her son, I guess being an eligible MILF. It shouldn't have affected me as much as it did, but I watched this and I thought, I didn't actually see any scene. I saw the picture of her posing with her son and like, hi, like MILF Manor. I'm like, what? It just, I'm not gonna lie. It just made my respect level go pew. Not that I don't know this woman at all. She's made 2 movies that I know of. It just made it affected me in not one of those ways of you ruined my childhood. It just was like, oh, geez. Like, you think you know someone based on a character they played in 2 movies 30 years ago. Obviously, that's ridiculous. But I just wanted to note that the girl you see starring in this movie was recently on MILF Manor. And now I'm going to let that go. So she is making Sweet Sweet Love with, we're going to assume that's Dan. They're still together. He's he's the cock of the walk. And she goes in to take a shower. And we kind of get, it's a little racy. The glass shower door it's opaque, but it's not opaque enough if you're taking your kids to see this movie. All of a sudden, basically the shower attacks her. It starts flooding her. It starts almost drowning her. It fills up the shower. Now, if you could do that with a real shower, I would do that on a daily basis. I'd fill the shower up all the way, not all the way to my head, and then I just float, maybe tread water for a while. I love floating. I love swimming. I joined a gym just for the pool. In fact, I joined just the pool part of the gym, and I go there a couple times a week. I love it. I don't, swim around like she is. I swim back and forth, but which was funny when I watched the pool. There's a pool comes in later in this too, so now I'm going to be nervous the next time I go to the pool. But she has this crazy nightmare where she gets pulled all of a sudden and she's naked the whole time. She gets pulled into some sort of factory. Then we find out she's in the insane asylum, the old classic insane asylum where Amanda Kruger worked. This is where we get some of the backstory of Fred Krueger. And we actually see all these 100 inmates because we know he's the bastard son of 100 maniacs. And they even have these 2 guys trying to count them. They leave these guys just roaming freely. Like 67, like, don't bother counting. We know there's 100. And one of them is Robert Englund himself. I thought that was a cool, kind of a fun little thing that if you don't know what Robert Englund looks like without the Freddy Krueger makeup, it just looks like this weird dude. Hey, isn't that the guy from V? Like, you wouldn't make the connection that, oh my God, that's Freddy Krueger. But for the nerds and for the, people that are just a little, are in the kind of into this kind of stuff, who would read Fangoria magazine, seeing him, and the fact that he looks directly in the camera, you'd be like, oh, that's so cool seeing he's one of the maniacs. Now, Amanda Krueger, I guess, is a nun there. She gets trapped with them. They do what they do with her. They assault her. And that's the dream. Now, Alice is seeing this dream. She wakes up. She's like, what a bad dream. She tells Dan this, but boom, it's still a dream within a dream, which happened to me once. I had a dream where I woke up and I was still in a dream. It was cool. And it wasn't like anything scary. It was just kind of Cool. I feel like I've talked about this before, but it's not Freddy. It's not Dan. It's the insane dude who looks like Robert Englund, which I'm going to assume after all the 100 maniacs who attacked Amanda, he's the one who who sired Frederick Krueger. That's my guess. So Alice, she's a little freaked out. She won't jump in the shower because a shower just tried to attack her. So next, we cut over to their high school graduation. These are some of the oldest high school grads we've ever seen. I'm wondering, does Alice smell because she didn't take a shower? But it's the class of 1989, which these kids, so this is, my brother's the class of 91. There's no way these kids are 2 years older than my brother. So this is the thing that bothers me the most. And it bothers me actually throughout this movie. Alice is graduating high school in 1989. Okay. It has been less than a year since the Nightmare on Elm Street 4. Less than a year than the incident of all these people dying. And here we are, part 5, graduation. Alice has a whole new group of friends that she seems so very close with that she didn't know at all. Now, if this wasn't Alice and it was just another bunch of kids in Nightmare, that would make a little more sense. Another bunch of kids who go to Springwood High. But these are Alice's best buds ever since the other best buds all were killed less than a year ago. That bugs me. And what bugs me is throughout this movie, Alice has to explain to them who Freddy Krueger is. She says he killed about 20 or 30 kids on Elm Street. Now, I don't know how many kids lived on Elm Street, but that is it would seem like he killed all the kids on Elm Street, because how many kids live on a street? And the fact that they live there now, but none of the kids know about this Freddy Krueger. What are you talking about, this Freddy Krueger? Remember all those kids who died last year? And remember a few years ago, those kids who died? Remember that other group of kids who died? Remember that party a few years ago where all those kids died? Yeah, it's all related to Freddy Krueger. Nobody makes the connection. Nobody ever talks. It's like this movie comes back in a town. We're not hidden in the camp. There's no, it's not like the town is on alert and everyone's hiding. It's not all in the same night. A year has gone by, and the only one who knows what's going on is Dan. And he's like, hey, don't worry. He can't get you in his dreams. If you don't dream about him, you're fine. That's great. If you can control your dreams. Now, she is the dream master, correct? But I mean, look, I know I'm not going through the plot perfectly, but there's another thing that bothers me in this movie, and I could be wrong and I could have missed it in part 4. But she keeps saying that Freddy is getting to all these people through me, through my dreams. Like, he can't attack you unless he gets through me. Is that new? Is that completely new? I have never seen that as like a part of the lore before. It's just, if you dream, he gets you. And that's kind of what we see in this. But they make it seem like, oh, no, Alice is the key. She's the doorway that Freddy can use to get through and kill all these other people. I don't know. I think that's crazy. Now, back at this graduation, it seems like Dan's parents don't really care for Alice all that much. They just want him to think about his future and going to maybe possibly play high school football. In fact, they bring a recruiter to the high school graduation. And that is implying that this stud athlete, Dan, at high school graduation has no idea where he's going to school next year, doesn't know his plans as far as what his college he's going to, if he's on a team. You'd feel like at high school graduation, not only would you know, nowadays they'd show you signing, he's committed to this college. I mean, who cares about that stuff? But at least if you're not the kid's family, I don't care. But these people should know this already. So Alice is sad. She sees all these people taking pictures, all these people having fun, and she's all alone. But then her dad's there. Her dad shows up. He's been going to AA. He's just nice through this entire movie. And he actually never falters. He is the one shining parent in this movie. I shouldn't say none of them are all that bad, except for, what's the girl's name? Greta. Yeah. Her parents, her mom is the absolute epitome of worst. This is a girl who can model and her mother basically makes her watch her calories completely. And of course, that comes back to, haunt her in her death. But Alice has already had this first dream, all right, where she sees the insane asylum. Now, her and Dan, she's got to go to work on the day she graduates from high school. She's going to work. Okay. She cuts through a park. All of a sudden, she starts seeing the girls, the 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. And, I'm thinking to myself through most of this movie, how the hell is she seeing this? How the hell is anything with this happening while she's awake? And I hate to say it, I actually forgot until just now, and I was going to complain, this doesn't make any sense. How could this be happening? But I like the answer. I like it takes a while for us to find out why this is happening, why she can see these things while she's awake. The whole thing where she's the catalyst for all the other kids, I don't like that. That seems new to me, and maybe I just missed it. I'm not good at this. But the whole thing of how can she see this stuff while she's awake? It's a pretty cool explanation when we get there. A hint. Remember, the name of the movie is The Dream Child. So the one thing I do have a complaint about. So she's going through the woods. All of a sudden, she sees this beautifully drawn castle in the background. Yes, it looks like a matte painting. She goes into I guess it's the insane asylum, but it is a friggin' castle. It is beautiful. And she sees Amanda Kruger for the first time. Oh, she sees Amanda Kruger giving birth to this monster baby who's Freddy. She chases Freddy around, and then Freddy eventually turns into Freddy. I mean, it's this crazy scene with all this stained glass. It's kind of cool. The effects are kind of cool. But the one thing that bothers me with these nightmare movies is they just kind of happen again. Look at the Halloween movies. Now, let's say, okay, in the end of the first Halloween, he gets away. The end of the second Halloween, he's burnt to death. But they say in part 4, he was just burnt. He's still alive. At the end of 4, he gets shot down this well, but he rolls down, goes to this blind dude, hangs out even more at the end of 5. I forget how that ends. The end of, wait a minute. The end of 5. I don't remember. Maybe I'm getting 4 and 5 mixed up, but it feels like they always have some sort of explanation of what happened to Michael Myers. Friday the 13th, Jason, they show him almost dying, but he doesn't quite die. And they show maybe a bubble of breath. They show something to show he's back. Now, at the end of part 3, the light goes on in the house. Okay, so Freddy's still alive. At the end of 2, the thing comes out of the chest of the girl, so I guess Freddy's still alive. Okay, so maybe they kind of do it. Maybe they, but I feel like in 4, they just walked away. But what they don't do is they don't explain why or how he comes back. Now, was it in part 5 or part 4 he came back because they dug up his bones? And I was like, a dog pissed fire on his grave? I mean, it didn't make any sense. And in this one, there is no explanation of why Freddy or how Freddy could come back to life. He just does. She witnesses the birth of Freddy in a dream. It's a flashback for the young nun, gives birth to this deformed little Freddy Krueger. Kind of cool special effect, especially for 1989. Freddy then grows into full-fledged Freddy, and he gets to say, "It's a boy." And all of a sudden, Alice runs away, and she ends up at the diner. It's been 4 hours. So I think that's kind of cool. Let's face it. She figures it out. It doesn't take her very long. We come to find out that Alice is pregnant from when her and Dan, did it in the, that's how they did. They did like this in the opening credits. She got pregnant, and now the baby dreams, and the baby's nightmares to Freddy's getting into the baby's nightmares, which are affecting Alice's, real life concept. Not a bad little kind of trick of how it works for Freddy to get to her while she's awake. All the other stuff, all bets are off. When you're sleeping, Freddy's coming for you. How he's back, I don't know. Why he's back? Because he came back because he got born in a dream and reborn in a dream and grew up. The explanation of how, what's the, I guess if you believe he comes back, I don't know. But he's back and he's ready to kill. So we jump over to the high school party. Alice is working, so she can't be at the party, but it's a pool party because one of the girls works. Wait a minute, she works as a nurse and a high school student, and she's on the swim team. I don't know exactly, but she opened up the pool for everyone to hang out and swim. There's Mark and Greta. Greta's the model. Mark's the nerdy artsy guy who draws comic books. They're friends, but never shall the two, be girlfriend boyfriend as much as Mark would like it. We do see a moment where this kid cuts himself really bad on a beer bottle, and Mark's like, "Oh, I hate the sight of blood. He's gonna faint." But this kid, I feel like that cut his hand should be bleeding to death. Like he should be taken to the ER immediately because that is very dangerous. So Alice freaks out. She calls the pool. She knows the pool number, of course. Calls the pool. This is, again, cell phones don't exist. Gets down on the line. She's like, Freddy Krueger, he's back. He's back. I'm telling you, I had a dream about him. Please come quick. Come quick. I don't know what he would do, but come quick. And he's like, great. And of course, he falls asleep while driving. Now, I like this death. It's silly. Freddy's driving the truck. He rips off his own arm and uses it as a seatbelt. Ingenious. Amazing. But somehow he's back with this guy, gets him on what looks like a motorcycle, or no, I'm sorry. The guy jumps on a motorcycle. He goes back to the pool. His car doesn't work. He's all freaked out after Freddy got to him, jumps on a motorcycle. Now, all of this is while he's dreaming. He fell asleep in the truck. He gets on the motorcycle and Freddy takes over the motorcycle, kind of turns him into some sort of crazy Ghost Rider. Freddy's face is on these wires. It's kind of dumb, but he rips this guy's skin off. It's a very violent death, but it has nothing to do with what really happens. In reality, he's just asleep at the wheel, crashes his car, explodes, and he's a goner. There's a cool scene where I watched it twice, 3 times. How do they do it? Alice is in the diner. She's talking to a guy. She walks over, and then the diner disappears, and there's this big, huge hole, like a hole from hell. And I'm like, how the heck did they do it? And then I realized Alice is not in this scene at all. You can kind of see it's a little different coloring around her. It's a green screen. She turns around, and all of a sudden she sees, like, I guess Dan falling through hell. I don't know. But it was the diner. Then it was the Dan in trouble. But it was a real shot done so quickly that it looked like she was actually in the diner, and it wasn't. Of course, Dan dies 10 feet outside of the diner. She runs over, and he's kind of still there. It's like, hey, maybe pull me out of the car. But no, he's dead. In fact, his head pops up, and it's Freddy talking again, which was kind of freaky. She starts telling her friend Yvonne, hey, Freddy's after me. Please help. Freddy's after me. She never once believes her. Through this entire thing, she's like, you're crazy. Like, don't you remember all those people who died last year? She doesn't bring that up. Nothing of this comes up. This girl, it's like she just moved to Springwood and no one's told her anything about her town. She's annoying through the entire thing of how she doesn't believe her best friend. Like, to the point where she leaves them until I think the very end, until Freddy actually gets to her. She doesn't buy anything. She doesn't say, oh, let me at least help you. Now she gets, Alice faints when she sees her boyfriend dead, gets brought to the hospital. She starts spewing all this Freddy stuff. And they're like, it's probably because she's hysteric because of her state. This doctor, by the way, is terrible. He's like, what do you mean? You're pregnant. Bing, bang, boom. You see Dan's parents like, oh my God, that's my baby's baby. And their son just died. So she's a little freaked out by that. She spends the night in the hospital, and this little kid shows up, and he's like, hi, I'm Jacob. How you doing? Now, I should have known right away that this kid was not there. This kid was not, this kid was part of the dream. You've seen this movie, right? I mean, we're going to find out that this kid is her baby in the future. That's what your kid's going to look like. So I hope you're happy with him. He's like, hi, I'm Jacob. I'm here, blah, blah, blah. It turns out the hospital doesn't even have a children's ward. There's no one named Jacob. Her friend tells her that. She now gets all her friends together, and she's like, this is it. It's Freddy Krueger. This is what's going on. And I feel like the guy, Mark, is the only one who kind of believes her. And Greta's like, you know what? I don't know but if you say he's real, I'm on your side, no problem. Now I need to go back with my family and have dinner. Now she has dinner. It almost looks to me like she's having dinner with like people out of Beetlejuice. This is the most over the top, opulent, ridiculous. There's butlers with white gloves, and there's all these people that are talking about her. Is one of these guys the doctor? Like there are guys telling how beautiful she is. She's so beautiful. Very creepy, very odd. This is where she dies. She obviously falls asleep at the dinner table because these kids who are afraid to fall asleep can fall asleep at the drop of a hat. Um, Stuffs her with food, makes her face humongous. Oh, by the way, no girl in 1989, her age, had a doll collection like this girl had. The creepiest dolls ever. One of them was big, big cheeks and crashed and smashed. Of course, that's foreshadowing to what we see here. She falls asleep right at the dinner table. Robert Englund shows up delivering gross meal, and all of a sudden, then we find out it's Freddy. He shoves her face, fills her face with all these things. They do these big chipmunk cheeks to blow out her face. In real life, we see her choking. She chokes to death. Boom. So now, oh yeah, that's the kill count. What's the kill count here? We have Dan and we have Greta. So that's two people killed. Right? I think that's the only thing. Meanwhile, Alice is at her house and she has a vision of Greta inside the refrigerator choking. Then Freddy closes the fridge. And you keep wondering, why is she having these visions? Of course, we find out later it's because the baby is dreaming. The girl Greta chokes. She lands on the table. They're like, Greta? And one guy next to her just kind of shakes her shoulder like, hey, are you dead? Like, no Heimlich. The Heimlich maneuver was around by 1989. I mean, it had to have been. Nothing. No one even gives a chance. She just dies. And the nice thing is we don't have all these funerals. Sometimes an old Nightmare on Elm Street, death, and then we cut to the funeral. And we didn't get a lot of funerals with these movies. It's just they're dead. Let's move on. Now let's go to the next guy. They go find the next guy who works I think he works in his father's warehouse. He's Dan. This guy in real life is like an artist who makes masks and does all kinds of art. So I wonder if he did all the drawings. But he made a comic book character called the Phantom Prowler. And that's his guy who's like, the Phantom Prowler's brave. I'm not brave in real life. But he has all these drawings everywhere. And he is hanging out with Alice. He's like, I'll stand guard with you while you go to sleep. Alice, I'll make sure nothing crazy happens. Because, of course, that always works out well. And 5 seconds later, he's asleep. And she's like, oh, God. Oh, wait, this might be early, where Yvette runs off and says, I don't believe you. I'm leaving. She finds Mark asleep. She looks down and sees a drawing of the original Nancy house on Elm Street. And right away, she thinks, I need to get in this dream. So she takes a red magic marker and draws a stick figure named Alice. And that's how she gets in the dream. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. But now she and Dan are in this house together. We see Jacob again. It's a little creepy. Dan actually gets cut, but he wakes up and he's like, oh my God, it's real. I believe you now. I got cut in my dreams. And he even tells Yvette, I got cut in my dreams. You don't believe me. She believes nothing. She agrees with nothing. So now she goes to the doctor to ask the guy, they're going to have an ultrasound. He's like, it's very early to have an ultrasound. Everything should be normal. But she's like, do babies dream? I'm worried about nightmares for my baby. He's like, yeah, it could happen. And he goes, let me break the doctor-patient confidentiality and make a phone call right away. Now she's, I guess, considered a minor, but still, that's a weird thing to do. And I don't think he calls his father. I think he calls Dan's father and mother. I think. I'm not sure. But we get this kind of trippy, very 80s special effects version of the ultrasound where she sees the baby. She sees this kind of scariness, but it actually, nothing really scary happens. It just looks almost like something out of friggin' Lawnmower Man. I don't even know. But it's just weird. This time, Yvette still doesn't believe it. Oh, Mark believes everything, found all this research on it. Yvette still doesn't give a crap. She's like, I don't care if 2 people are dead. They just died. I don't care that something happened to you. I'm going swimming. It's like, what the hell? He's like, I believe you. He's not a very good actor, but he's like, I believe you. I will help you, whatever it takes. But he's like, I see you later. She goes back to her house. We see Dan's parents there. They're like, yo, we want the baby. We're going to raise the baby. She's like, what are you talking about? It's my baby. And yeah, but maybe with a stable household, the baby will be fine. You've been a little cuckoo lately. And the father's like, yo, you don't talk about my daughter like that. We'll raise the baby just here. Fine, here. Get out of here. I like that the dad has her back through this entire movie and says it's her baby. She wants to keep it. That's fine. So now she and Mark are talking about Amanda Kruger, and Alice kind of puts it all together. I think Amanda knows the way to kill Freddy. I think Amanda wants me to follow her and help her in the dreams. I think so. And I believe that's Freddy Krueger's mother. She was assaulted by raped by the facility's 100 patients. Actually, we see the article here. It says presumed dead after an exhaustive countywide manhunt. Springwood nun Amanda Kruger will be memorialized Friday with a special tombstone in Springwood Cemetery, a church official announced. Amanda Kruger first came to national prominence 30 years ago when she was accidentally locked inside a Springwood sanitarium and raped by the facility's 100 patients. The result was a son, Freddy, who was recently arrested in connection with a series of grisly Springwood child murders. Monsignor Robert Shea, hello, Robert Shea is the producer of this movie, Bob Shea. And Lynn Shea played the teacher. She's in all the Conjuring movies, but the Insidious. No, wait a minute. The Insidious movies. Wait a minute. What movies is she in? Yeah, the Insidious movies. So that's funny. She was a victim of the evil within us all. I hope she will know peace in the life hereafter. Of no less importance was the common recognition shown of the fact that any menace from without to the peace of our continents concern all. Oh, look at this. Residents feel that if they have advantage ever. This is fake. These happens a lot with these movies. This newspaper only has 3 paragraphs related to the story. From here on out, it's all gibberish. And I feel like the same gibberish was in a newspaper in Back to the Future 3 or 2 or 1. No, probably 2 and 3. I feel like it's the same filler text. The mayor, meanwhile, has diplomatically kept a low profile, at least in public. Sources at City Hall confirm that until the county council has finished its private meeting concerning the issue, that the mayor will have a public statement. See, I mean, it's just all gibberish, but those first 3 paragraphs are specific. So that's kind of a fun little nugget that you see there. But they kind of figure out, I think we know what the problem is here. And they go to a Bible. They start reading about it. What the hell? I forget what they read in the Bible. I watched this movie yesterday and I already forget why they read the Bible, but it's something to do with the fact that they need to stop Freddy. That's pretty much what it is. And they're like, all right, I know what to do. I'm going to go to sleep and you make sure you don't fall asleep. And, if anything weird happens, come and get me. And he's like, sure, I'll make sure of it. So we jump back over to Yvette. She's back at the pool. She's hanging out in the hot tub. And of course, right away, she falls in the hot tub. She falls asleep in the hot tub. While that happens, Alice is running through the sanitarium in her dream. And while that happens, Mark is reading a bunch of comic books on the floor late at night. I think we know what's going to happen there. He's going to get sleepy. We see Yvette now climb a ladder to dive into this giant swimming pool. Now, the pool I go to is just a lap pool. There's no diving, so it's not very deep. But it's almost the same length as this, I think. I don't know. It's only 25 yards. Anyway, she goes to jump in the pool, but instead, before she jumps in, it becomes like hell, and she falls in, and it's dreamy and all this kind of stuff. And Freddy all of a sudden is with Yvette. he's like, look what I have. He pulls her out of the water and shows Alice. Alice found Freddy. Freddy found Yvette. Yvette's like, oh shit, it's been real the whole time. Oh my God, it's happening to me. But once Alice opens this door that she almost sees Freddy's mom, I think. Freddy freaks out and is like, oh no, I don't like this. And he gets scared. He leaves them alone because Alice takes a big metal pipe and says, shut up, shut your face, and throws the pipe into his mouth, which was gross, but kind of, cool little effect. Meanwhile, our boy falls asleep and we get the silliest. Is it the silliest kill of all time in a Nightmare on Elm Street movie? I would say up to this point, probably. We got welcome to prime time, bitch. But we've never got anything, I think, quite like this. So he's reading comics. All of a sudden, he sees a comic called Nightmare from Hell. And he's looking in the comic and he realizes that it's the story that everything, and it's only 50 cents. Not bad. It's Nightmare in Hell, 13, issue number 13. It really should have been issue number 5. That would have made more sense. Whoever thought of putting 13. 13 is an unlucky number, but 5 is the series movie. I mean, come on. It shows these Freddy glove scratching across the cover. I would love this comic book. He opens it up and he sees it's basically the movie that we see in part 5 here. And it ends, the last panel he sees is him lying down reading a comic book. And then he Jumanjis right into the comic book. He's like, whoa, whoa, gets sucked into the comic book. And it's kind of a cool set design because everything's in black and white except him. And I don't know if it just goes back and forth, but it feels like the scenes he is in are filmed in color, but everything is painted to look like it's in black and white. I wonder if that's cheaper than digitizing everything around him so that he's in color and everything else is in black and white. Now, I think they show scenes of Super Freddy. That's right. Super Freddy shows up and he is in black and white. I wonder if that's all just shot in black and white. I bet you that's shot in black and white, but the stuff with him is painted because then sometimes it looks a little blue. It doesn't quite look right. So I think that's exactly what happened. All of a sudden, he sees a shot of his girlfriend, Greta, that he liked, surrounded by all these dolls. They get smashed. And then Super Freddy shows up. He's like, I'm Super Freddy. And this guy's like, I'm the Phantom Prowler. Now, the last time that happened, a kid's like, I'm the Wizard Master. Freddy killed him 5 seconds later. And guess what? It happened again. He's like, I'm the Phantom Prowler. Shoot, shoot, shoot. I can kill you. I'm very, I'm brave and a superhero. Freddy's like, yeah, that's great. Slash, slash, slash. Slashes this guy to death. And he turns into like paper. It's like, oh no. We almost get like aha. Like Take On Me level video, level like special effect. But then the other one is definitely like he's just paper being cut in half. And I thought that was kind of funny, kind of silly. Now with Super Freddy, we don't just get Robert Englund in a padded suit. We get an entirely different guy with playing Freddy with Robert Englund's voice. This is an actor by the name of Michael Bailey Smith. It looks like this was the first thing he's ever done. Film and television, 1989, played Super Freddy. He went on to be in such shows as Renegade, Silk Stockings, Cyborg 3, The Recycler, Best of the Best 3. He's in a lot. Babylon 5. Murphy Brown. He played a wrestling secretary. He played in one episode. Why does it say 95, 96? Oh, whatever. The Drew Carey Show as Big Guy. So this guy has been playing in movies. He was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer for, years and years and years. He's done some voices in video games. So but his first claim to fame is Super Freddy. So Alice wakes up and finds Mark dead with all this stuff collapsing on him in the, and it looks like to me, or it looks like to everyone else, that he died of a terrible accident, but Alice knows the truth. She runs outside. Her dad's like, we need to go. Yvette got away. I forget how, but Alice saved her in the dream. So she woke up in the jacuzzi, runs over to Alice. And she's like, what's going on? What are we going to do? Just don't make me jump in a jacuzzi with this crazy guy again. I'm like, this is dumb. She starts talking something about the nun. The mother is afraid. We have to get to the asylum. So this is insane. She tells Yvette, it's the asylum. Go to the abandoned asylum by yourself. Yvette's like, that's what I'll do. I was just almost killed by a crazy man in my dream, but you want me to go to the abandoned asylum? I'll do that. Great idea. So she goes there, and while she's awake, she goes there, and Alice is like, I'll go home and go to sleep, and I'll attack him from the dream. You go there, and I forget exactly what the hell she's even needs to do. She's like, you need to find the mom in the asylum. I don't know. Alice gets into the dream. Of course, she's so good at this that she knows exactly what to dream. She breaks in. Meanwhile, Yvette finds this old room that I think is where Alice told her to go, and she starts using a crowbar to open it up and get inside. I don't quite know what's going on here. Alice starts fighting Freddy. Freddy gets killed by a bunch of the asylums inside the dream. He gets ripped apart, but of course he's still alive. Then all of a sudden he's got Alice's baby, and she realizes that's my son. He's like, hey, Jacob, how you doing? I don't know what the point, like, what is the point of him needing the baby? What does he need the baby for? In part 2, he was going to use, was his name Mark in part 2? He was going to use that guy to come out and be born. Now, is that what he's trying to do here? Is he trying to overtake Jacob so that Jacob, he overtakes Jacob, and then he'll be reborn into the real world? Like, I feel like either that seems way too good of an idea. I don't remember it being said. That's what's bothering me. We get some trippy Hogwarts looking step stuff going on. I don't quite understand that. But it's a fun little effect of all these different stairs going all these different areas. Sometimes Allison's back up in her diner for a second. I mean, I don't even know what the hell's going on here. I don't quite understand it. But then Freddy starts coming out of her. I don't know. Oh, except all I know is that in the real world, not in the dream world, in the real world, Yvette finds her mother, I guess, kind of still alive with all these doves around. The mother turns to dust, and she's like, thank you. Like, she evaporates. I guess she put the mother to some sort of like peace. And now the mother's in the dream world viewing Freddy being pulled out of Alice. He's inside of Alice. They used an actor who doesn't have legs to do this. It's very creepy. Then the nun talks to Jacob, and she's like, you need to help him. You need to help your mother. And then all of a sudden, Jacob's like, yeah, I'll turn around. Now I have Freddy makeup on my face. I don't understand what the point of this is, except he's like, hey, Freddy, how you doing? And then all of a sudden, all this shit starts like grabbing Freddy. I mean, I watched this, and now these like demons are pulling him apart. I don't know what they're supposed to be. I don't understand it. I enjoyed it. When was it part 4 they had pizza with the souls as meatballs on the pizza. That made more sense than what the hell I'm seeing here. I don't know what I'm seeing. I don't get what I'm seeing, except they pulled the baby version of Freddy back out of Freddy. His mother's there, and baby's like, oh no. And then what the hell happens? I think Alice takes the baby Freddy. Is that what happens? Yep. Alice. I'm sorry. The nun grabs the baby Freddy, Amanda. The Alice grabs the baby Jacob, who's a baby again, and they're like nodding with each other, like, yes. The baby Freddy disappears inside of the ghost nun's belly. She grabs her belly, and it's like, goodbye, everything's good. The ghost goes in, the baby goes inside Alice, and she's like, yes, he's in my belly again. Everything's wonderful. And they look at each other. They give a little nod, like she's like, goodbye. She runs off. Friggin' the end. We get to the end. Alice has a baby. Yvette's there. Everyone's happy. They're hanging out with the dad at a friggin' park, having a grand old time. The only thing that makes me, feel like something good could happen is when they pull away in the middle of the park. Of course, what do we see but those same jump rope and motherfucking kids doing that 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. So it's like, I don't understand it because we're in the real world, but they always do that to try to teach you that it's not quite over yet, even though it was kind of over. And then it ends with a cool Mo D song, which I was not expecting. Look, I did not go note for note with this movie. I did not. I'm sure I definitely didn't give it credit. I'm pretty much not giving it any credit because I think this is the worst Nightmare on Elm Street movie I've ever seen. It's worse than 2, and 2's not good. It's worse than 4, and 4 is not good. Obviously, 1 is the best. If anyone tells you 3 is better than 1, it's wrong. 3 is still a lot of fun, and it's got some of the best kills. And I feel like Freddy really finds himself in part 3, but 4 and 5 are like equal. It's almost like 4 and 5 of Halloween. They're kind of their own little thing. Because I don't know if we get any of these people back in 6. I don't remember. I just remember that when 4 and 5 happened, it was me and my brother. No one gave a crap. But when 6 came around, we had a group of us, and it's friends that I still am friends with today. We went on a Friday. We did the 3D glasses, but that's for another time. This movie, in the end, we got, how many kills did we get? We got Dan, we got Mark, we got Greta. That's it. 3 kills. Is this the lowest? I mean, look, these aren't Halloween movies. These aren't Friday the 13th movies. They're always going to be lower because it's just a small group of kids dealing with this monster in their dreams. So it doesn't have to be this large group of dead bodies everywhere, because it's not like the killer's roaming free and getting into all this mischief. But yeah, 3. That's it. I think, right? I think that's it. No parents, no adults. Yeah. Definitely the most. Is this the least memorable? I don't even know. We'll see. Looking back when I saw the kills, they were like, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember that. And I remember that. I barely remember the motorcycle, but I remember the stuffing the face, and I remember the comic book. I thought the comic book was in part 6, to be honest with you. So I don't know what I'm expecting with part 6. But I hope that I don't take months and months and months and months to get there. But I think that's it. I think I'm done. I am done talking about the last Robert Englund movie with the title A Nightmare on Elm Street. But I hope you're not done with me. I hope you've stuck around. I hope you found me, whether it is through, the podcast catcher of choice, Spotify, Apple, all that stuff, or if you found us through YouTube. I appreciate the fact that anyone's finding this at any place. It is fun to do. It is fun to revisit these movies, and the fact that almost all these movies I've had a history with. So I like to look back kind of on that time in my life as well. This was me getting ready for 8th grade. But that same summer, I saw Indiana Jones 3. That's the other one. Ghostbusters 2. Back to the Future 2. I mean, and the fact that I saw this. I mean, we were going to movies almost every weekend, but this just does not live up to that level of those movies. It doesn't even live up to the levels of something, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, which I think is also why the box office wasn't all that great. We'll see what the next movie brings us, though, my friends. Until then, listen, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Mastodon.social, and Blue Sky. Yes, I'm at all those places at Geek Mentality. The show is on Twitter at /horror. It might be in some other places as /horror. I'm not entirely, I don't remember. It's been so long. The YouTube channel is Fans Not Experts. The Facebook page is Fans Not Experts. And the website where every episode of Slash and every episode of every other movie that every other podcast that I do can be found at fansnotexperts.com. So that's it. I'm done. It's over. Remember, though, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Remember that it's fun to be scared, and whatever you do, don't fall asleep. Ooh, I need a drink.
I'm coming to get you now!
Fans not experts.